WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore. Celebrating Radio 1's 42nd anniversary.
Our Radio 1 family, our employees, their family members, our listeners, our viewers, our extended family.
And serving the African American community for over 42 years.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
A boy's born in hot time, Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't so pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong, moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city. His father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes $1. His mother goes to scrub the floors for many, and you best believe she hardly gets a penny, living just enough for the city. Pretty, her skirt is short, but Lord, her legs are sturdy. To walk to school, she's got to get up early. Her clothes are old, but never are they dirty. Living just enough for the city. Her brother's smart, he's got more sense than many. His patience long, but soon he won't have any. To find a job is like a haystack needle, 'cause where he lives, they don't use colored people. Living just enough for the city.
Good morning. Every Friday here on 1010 WOLB from 10 to 12 is the Frank M. Conaway Sr. NL Show with co-host, attorney Tehma Smith Wilson.
Good morning, Baltimore and beyond. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again on a Friday. I am an attorney and business owner based out of Baltimore City. Our services include real estate and estate planning. So if you have the need to buy or sell your property or to purchase your ground rent or update your deed, please give us a call at 667-334-7242. And if you're listening to the show and you can't get through on the phone lines, please feel free to text your comment or your question to 667-334-7242, and we'll be sure to include it in the conversation.
And the Dean of Attorneys, Attorney Robert Bob Dean Dashiell.
Good morning, Baltimore. Bob Dashiell here. Happy to be here on a Friday morning, 410-547-8820. But I must tell you, I hate rainy Fridays. So let's get this
It
thing
ain't
on
my favorite
and get it
either. And
That's right.
we have two special co-hosts with us today. One who's here in the studio with us, the daughter of the late founder of this show. The reason this show is. And we're talking about the Register of Wills for Baltimore City and the daughter of the late, great Frank M. Conaway Sr. and my sister, and I love her dearly, and she ought to be mayor. I'm talking about Belinda Conaway.
Good morning, Baltimore. Sending you lots of love this morning. Thank you so much for having me.
And joining us online is her son, who is the new clerk of the court, which was held by his grandfather for many years. And we have on the line with us Xavier Conaway. Xavier?
Hello. Yes, hello, good morning. Happy Friday, Baltimore City. Thank you so much, Carlton, and everyone for having me. I'm so honored.
We're glad to have you. Before we get to one of our special guests, you heard me, and thanks, Fats, for playing it. You heard me play after our theme song, Precious Memories. And that is, whenever you hear that, you usually know that I'm coming on letting you know about someone dear, not only to me, but to this city that has passed on and gone with the ancestors. And we're talking about the incomparable Dean of Baptist Preachers in this town. I'm talking about the Reverend Dr. A.C.D. Vaughn, who went on to be with the ancestors on this past Sunday. Dr. Vaughn's son, Corrigan, was a part of this show for a while. He also worked for us, and I'm talking about the Carlton Douglas Funeral Service, for about 18 years. Dr. Vaughn himself was a dear friend. He was a preacher's preacher. He was great in the civic community. He was a civil rights icon. In fact, I was speaking the other day about him on my other show, and I was saying I think he is the last of his generation of preachers. The only one I know that is still around that comes close to him would be the Reverend William Calhoun down at Trinity Baptist on Druid Hill Avenue. But Doc he came along during the time when Marion Bascom and Vernon Dobson, Frank Williams, Sidney Daniels, all that crew were very active in the black community to making things better for Baltimore. He's going to be sorely, sorely missed. Condolences go out to his wife, Dr. Lillian Vaughn, great lady, the Sharon Baptist Church family, and his daughters, the whole family. Our love goes out to him. Now, I understand the viewing starts next Friday at Sharon Baptist Church. I don't have the time as of yet. I guess it would start either around 3 or 4. I understand it's a musical also that night. And the services, from what I understand, will be at his church. Everything's going to be done at his church. So you better get there whenever you can get there, because there ain't going to be enough room to get in there, because they got preachers coming from all over the country. Because as you may or may not know, Dr. Vaughn was one of the heads of the Hampton Ministers Conference every year down in Hampton. So there's preachers all over this country that will be coming to say farewell to their brothers. And from what I understand, the service is going to be next Saturday. So just want to get that in.
Carlton,
Yeah.
I have March 31st, the viewing from 5 to 7 p.m., and then April 1st, the wake from 10 to 11 a.m., and funeral 11 a.m.
11 o'clock. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's get right to the meat of things. And we have a special guest we want to get to right now. And we're going to let attorney, although I know this gentleman very well, attorney Tehma Smith Wilson, introduce our guest for us, please.
Today we have with us Mr. Christopher Ervin. He is the president and founder of a nonprofit organization located in Baltimore City named the Lazarus Rite. The mission of this organization is to place returning citizens into a position of sustainability employment by giving them a second chance in the workforce. And their area of career focus is commercial driver's license training as well as entry-level heavy equipment operator training. Thank you, Mr. Christopher, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Please tell us a little bit about your organization and how you help returning citizens find employment in those arenas.
Sure, but if I could, I want to thank you again for having me, but I also definitely needed to give a shout out to someone that I lovingly refer to as Uncle Carlton Douglas. We go back a good way.
Yeah.
The entire connectivity of your show, so it is more than a pleasure to join you all this morning.
Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. The Lazarus Rite, I founded this in approximately 2013, though we didn't formally begin until about 2015, because I myself have experienced incarceration, both after serving in the Marine Corps and attending the University of Maryland College Park. So I understood the we use the term the barriers, but I don't think people actually understand the trauma imposed on people who are trying to return to a society that is supposed to be welcoming of their return. We often place barriers in front of people instead of attempting to smooth the pathway home so that they do not transition back into criminality, though we also know that there was a dynamic with the police that not everyone was necessarily guilty of what they were charged with. That being said, our role as an organization is to equip them with the tools to be successful in the society and to be a successful part of the society. Being a citizen comes with privileges and rights, but it also comes with a certain level of responsibility. And so we need to return that standard. And in some cases, introduce that standard. Many times they hadn't been aware of their responsibility as adults, whether it be to vote or the role of paying taxes in a society. And so our program is not just a job training program. We actually have a curriculum that informs and instructs them on their role, gives them access to, and opportunities to see real-time engagement in that process. And then we train them for a job, because for all of that academic stuff to make sense, you still have to be able to take care of yourself on a daily basis. And so that's why we currently do what we do and make sure that they get the opportunities that we can afford them in the workplace. And we've seen some great successes. We've had some folks that have been with us for a long time, as well as some folks that have set out on their own and have done very well. And so I always circle back to, what is the biggest issue in Baltimore right now? And I think we'd be hard-pressed to avoid public safety being number one. And if public safety is the number one issue, we have to delve into, well, what are the components of that issue? And one of them is reentry. And if we're not placing a seriously targeted focus on addressing reentry, not just repeating reentry, what does that mean? How are we first engaging folks before they come home? How are we engaging folks once they come home? And how are we ensuring after they come home that they are being successful in being a part of this society? I'll stop there for now, but that's who we are as the Lazarus Rite. The name actually comes from the story of Lazarus, and it's not necessarily just the Christian story. It is referred to in other of the good books. And Lazarus was one that was dead for 4 days before he was resurrected from that state of being dead. And nowhere in the story does it imply that he was hard of hearing, or, he had been dead for 4 days and there was nothing physically wrong with him. there were no barriers to his return to the community. And so when we talk about it, we have to look at the fact that we intentionally place barriers in front of people, and then we don't understand why some of them are not successful.
Chris.
So we're doing work on that.
Let me ask you a question. This is Bob Dashiell speaking. How you doing this morning?
I'm fine, and you?
Good. I read yesterday, or I heard yesterday, that the Baltimore City workforce in the Department of Public Works is down 25%, and that the workforce in the Department of Transportation is down in a similar percentage. Many of the DPW jobs I know involve driving the front loader trash removal vehicles that would, I think, require CDL licenses. And so my question is, number one, to what extent, if any, has the city been cooperative with your organization in placement of folks who are returning from prison? And number two, of the three primary long-term incarceration places, I'm talking about Jessup, I'm talking about Hagerstown, and Eastern Shore Correctional, where do the majority of people that you've assisted so far, where are they returning from? Which of those three institutions are they returning from?
So first, those are all excellent questions, and thank you for those. Excuse me. First, let me tell you that my background, like I said, post-incarceration, I spent 20 years specifically in the waste industry on the private side, starting with Waste Management, then with Republic Services, who are the two largest haulers in North America, and several other companies in between. And so my entire background in trucking, and after my time in the waste industry, I purchased my own tractors and then got into tractor trailer hauling, freight hauling. Mm-hmm. And so my entire basis of knowledge began in the waste industry. In or about 2018, we initiated our relationship with the city, and we are now currently, and have been since about 2018, providing drivers to Baltimore City agencies, to include DPW and DOT and a couple others. And so the relationship with the city has been there.
Okay.
But some of what has been left out of the narrative is the effect of COVID on this specific conversation. In the waste industry, especially in rear load, you mentioned front load service, where in front load service, you use the truck to pick up the commercial can in front of the truck.
Right.
In the rear load service in particular, excuse me, rear load service in particular, there are three individuals in the truck, the driver and the two helpers, before they arrive on station to begin the route, and the two helpers get on the back. And so throughout COVID, when DPW, pre-COVID, DPW was already short-staffed under then Director Rudy Chow, which is when we began our partnership. They were already understaffed, and so that's why we were able to begin to work with them. Once COVID hit, and I think sometimes that people forget, obviously, a viral contaminant that was spread by proximity. DPW workers were hit inordinately by COVID. And so at one point, one entire yard was shut down because people refused to come to work for different reasons. I'm not here to...
Chris, I don't mean to cut you off, but I need to focus on something. How many trained CDL drivers do you have available right now to go to work for the city and any agency? How many do you have right now?
We do not maintain a pool of drivers. As soon as they graduate, we get them jobs and they are off and working.
Okay, how many do you have right now ready to graduate and go to work as a CDL driver?
We have a class right now of approximately 20 to 25.
And when will they graduate?
They will be graduating in approximately 30 days.
Okay. And have you informed the city that in 30 days you'll have 20 to 25 CDL drivers ready to go to work?
they are aware of that. But it is also the choice of the then graduates
of the graduate.
Work.
Whether they go there or not. Is that correct, Chris?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because CDL drivers are they're in demand.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, they're in demand. Well, listen, Chris, because of time, we're going to ask each of our co-hosts to say whatever, because I got a full board here. So, Tehma?
Yes, I know you also received a grant from Baltimore City regarding community cleanup. How is that coming along?
It's going excellent.
Okay.
It's going excellent. I don't, whatever you want to know about it, I'm happy to tell you.
Okay.
One final question. I'm sorry. Do you have something?
Yeah, I wanted to get to the other
I do.
Yeah.
I know that it was a problem when people are released, when they have to report to the supervisory board, parole and probation, that they aren't given the resources to show up for those meetings. Is that still the case? Like they don't give them bus tickets, or even the gentleman that I encountered, he didn't have anything in writing to say where he was supposed to report, what day. He was pulling everything from memory. Is that still the case, or are people given that? Because it seems that if there are people that want to do the right thing, they want to show up for parole and probation the way that they're supposed to, they're just coming out of jail, that these people need resources to make sure that they actually get there. The gentleman that I encountered was on foot. He said he didn't want to go back to jail. He wanted to do everything he was supposed to do, and he was walking to the parole and probation office and didn't have directions, didn't have a cell phone, so that he could even get, walking directions through the phone. But is that still the case?
I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Is that relative to the Lazarus Rite?
Well, I'm sorry. I thought you provided support services for people coming out of jail. So I'm sorry if that's not on point.
Do your services include transportation assistance? That's the question. Do the services that your organization provide, do those services include assistance with transportation for folks who need to get to the jobs that you're finding for them?
Okay. So my organization is a training program, and then I was asked about Clean Core, which is a specific employment program. So I just want to make sure I'm answering your question in context with what was laid out. So this question is about just random people needing services?
No. What the question is, Chris, when some of these folks coming out for parole probation and are looking for, say, like your organization to get trained, does your organization supply transportation for them to get to where they're supposed to be to get this training?
Well, we're able to help with that. That largely hasn't been an issue that we faced, that someone wanted to get to us that couldn't. But where we've been faced with people having any type of barriers, we work with them to address that. The most barriers that we face are things like child support or other logistical issues like that. But if transportation were an issue, we could probably get that solved. But for the most part, that hasn't been a problem that we've been made aware of.
Okay. Xavier, do you have a question for Chris?
Yes, Chris, I wanted to ask about one of your initial statements about the lack of oversight of the whole pipeline of the system. I wanted to ask, can you speak a little bit more about if you think the city is really addressing all components of that pipeline? Because one of the things I've definitely have spoken to many people who's come through the Baltimore City's courthouse is they are just shocked with the level of inefficiencies and how old things are, how poorly resourced a city as big as ours is. And so I'm just curious, have you seen that sort of leadership to make sure that we are addressing all the concerns and not simply focusing on just the arrest and what actually crimes happen instead of the whole process, such as reentry as well, and the administrative aspect of the criminal justice system?
Xavier, I'm sorry, I can hear you. It's kind of so. I want to make sure I have the gist of your question. Is the system updated and really addressing their issues? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, my apologies. I'll repeat it. I'm saying, are you seeing that support and that attention to all aspects of the pipeline of the criminal justice reform? Because you talked about getting reentry and how we need to make sure people have the resources and are prepared to actually reintegrate into society. So I wanted to speak more on if you actually are seeing that level of support and acknowledgement of this, because I feel from the number of people that have come through the courthouse, it seems that there's a lack of faith and there's actually attention being paid to all aspects of this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm asking you, have you seen anything?
Yeah, thank you for that. So I think to answer your question first, no, I don't see that yet. I think we're moving in that direction. I think that direction is better informed by listening and maybe even gaining some leadership from people who are the impacted people who've been through the process. And what I mean is, if we were talking about women's issues, of course, women should lead that discussion, and I agree with that. And so when we talk about reentry, all of a sudden the people who've been through it, and not just because they've been through it, but there are people who have been through it who then turned around and studied it and become leading voices on it, and yet they're not put in the leadership of the correction of a course correction, if you will. So I think that there just needs to be more informed in voices, and not informed in an academic way, but in a lived way as well as an academic way. And I think that we could actually change course in a way that will benefit Baltimore City.
All right, Bob, you had another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest that you take a look at what's going on at Hagerstown, where the inmates are performing, are manufacturing furniture and are engaged in meat processing, and where the majority of the inmates are not only African American but come from the city, and expand, if you can, with the resources, your objectives in terms of employment to those two industries, meat processing and furniture manufacturing, because they come out of jail with all the skills necessary to do it, but nowhere to get the jobs.
I fully agree with you, but I would also offer again that my program is based on my life experience and what led me into effectively the diesel trades.
Okay.
And so our focus in CDL and equipment operation are based on my areas of expertise, though I fully agree with you that there are many more trades that are available to people that are returning.
Okay.
Chris, my question, and then we're going to thank you for being with us. My question is, have you been able to, we got a new governor, first African-American governor of the state of Maryland. Have you been able to get to him and maybe whoever he has in control, because I don't know who the person he's put in control of parole and probation or rehabilitation going on in the prison system. But have you been able to get to him, sit down and talk with him about a plan maybe that these guys that are in prisons, and most prisons are supposed to be about rehabilitation, although here lately it's really been about punishment, that you could come up with a plan to train some of these guys so that when they come out, they'll be coming into a meaningful employment and getting their life back together by getting a CDL and becoming a credit to the community.
Yeah, so we've met. We're familiar with each other, but I would in no way take that to, we have not sat down. Now, having said that, I actually have a plan that would begin inside. Part of the issue for me is that we oftentimes wait until people are out. And so there needs to be a continuum created addressing that. And we do have a plan ready to go that I would love to sit and speak with him about, but we've not had that opportunity as of yet.
Okay. All right. You plan on running for anything else, man?
It's definitely in mind.
They need you up in that community. I don't know why they ain't got you in there yet, but I wish you well, and I know you're a great community activist, a great worker in the community trying to do the right things. I know that personally and can say that, and I wish you well in whatever endeavors you have for the future, and we certainly thank you. Tehma, anything else?
Thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
Do you offer any type of expungement assistance for people who might want to clear their records so they can have more workforce opportunities?
Yes, ma'am. We host expungement clinics, fairs where we partner with the necessary agencies, and we're trying to do a lot. And to be honest with you, I think that spreads us thin sometimes, and then we become less effective. But we also understand the need for these things. And again, informed by my own experience, I want to make sure that we're offering the things that people need in these instances, but also wanting to form the proper partnerships so that we're not spreading ourselves thin. So anyone that focuses on these different areas, expungement, housing for returning citizens, child support, if you are in any of those portals or what have you, if you're engaged in those areas, feel free to contact us because we're constantly looking to partner with people to form, like Voltron, a bigger entity.
Hello, Chris. This is Xavier again. This is why we love the Frank and Al show, because my office, we do handle expungements and some of the various processes of the criminal justice system. So I would love for us to still connect and see what services and information we can still provide to the community on what's offered through our office, on expungements, on marriage records, child support. We handle all those things, and we want to make sure, like you, that people are properly informed of what they can and can't do within the arcane process of the justice system. So I hope we can work together on that.
Absolutely, Xavier. I look forward to speaking with you offline.
All right. Thank you, Chris. It's been an honor having you here on the Frank M. Conaway Sr. et al. Show with co-hosts Attorney Tehma Smith Wilson, Attorney Robert Bob Dashiell, our other two special co-hosts, Belinda Conaway and Xavier Conaway. We appreciate you, man. We love you and respect you, and keep in touch. And we wish you well with everything that you're doing. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Uncle Carlton, and absolutely a thank you to Tehma Smith Wilson. And as you used to say when Brother Frank Conaway had this show, et al. for your panel, et al. and all. Thank you all for having me, and I'm happy to be available anytime you want me to come on.
Okay, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
WOLB streams live at WOLBbaltimore.com. WOLB streams live at WOLBbaltimore.com. That means if you can't get us too clearly on the radio, you can get us on the internet, or you can put into the TuneIn app, download it, and put in 1010 WOLB. Now, we're going straight to our callers because they've been on for a while, and then we're going to be sharing some things with our co-host and special co-host that's on today. We're coming in this order. Bill, I don't know who's exactly on line two. Alan, Leo, and Keith, in that order. Let's start with Bill. You're on air.
Hey, first and foremost, like always, man, let me just say thank y'all for this opportunity and hope everybody's doing good. And it's good to hear my friend Belinda Conaway on there with you. But I also just want to, Belinda, I just also want to give condolences to not just Reverend Vaughn's family, but also Larry Gibson's family.
Yeah, I understand Larry lost his wife. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure made mention to that.
Okay.
And I guess my 2 points of this call, you know, one thing I've always begged people to do, and I continue to beg people, is to please Google drugs and weapons stolen from the police department, because in my opinion, it's such a big issue when we constantly talking about the drugs and the murder and the crime in this city, and yet we don't want to hold nobody responsible in terms of how many drugs is taken from the streets, how many weapons is taken from the streets, and how could we assure that them drugs and weapons is not being resurfaced to the streets. So I think people should Google drugs and weapons stolen from police evidence rooms and see the information that pop up. the last point I want to make is this. Now, like I said before, I know the city is up under consent decree in terms of the infrastructure. But when we pay taxes, that's part of what we paying for, as well as they get some money from federal dollars. So I guess my question is that how much can they go up on your water bill? I mean, if they're going up, can they triple and quadruple your water bill? I'm saying what's legal and what's not legal. Because, personally, I feel like the city is purging our water bills, man. People shouldn't be paying $300 and $400 a month just to have water. And yet, it's not many people saying nothing about it, but I'm going to continue to say something about it because something needs to be done about it. Because it's almost like this is another way in terms of forcing people, low-income people, out of the city when you crime is so high, and then you raise everything so high that people can't even pay to live in a very bad neighborhood because it just costs too much to live there.
Anybody got an answer for that one, Bob?
Yeah, the water rates for the city are set by the Board of Estimates as a part of its annual process of approval of the ordinance of estimates. And the amount of the water bill supposedly is calculated based upon the cost of providing the service, and it's supposed to be self-supporting. In other words, it's supposed to be, and the city provides water not just to the city, but also to Baltimore County, by the way. So the amount that's set for the rates is supposed to be enough to cover the delivery of the service. And a few years ago, under when Rudy Chow was still the head of the Department of Public Works, he wrote a whole dilapidated piece of rusty pipe end to show the work that had to be done pursuant to the consent decree to replace much of the infrastructure. And if you look around the city now, you see the part that's visible, of course, the new reservoirs that are being constructed over at Ashburton and Druid Park and Ashburton, which will be completed probably maybe by the end of this year. But yeah, all of that costs money. There's a large part of it that's being provided to the city through the EPA, but it's supposed to be. But the rates will go up. They went up on the child. They may go up again if needed.
It has to be visible in Ashburton because they tore down all the trees.
Yeah. You live up there. You know very well.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that was a big discussion when Dwight was part of the show because Dwight lived up in that area too.
I'd never seen anything like it in my life. We came home one day and it looked like they were over there working. The next morning, 70% of the trees were gone. I mean, overnight, literally, they tore down trees.
Yep. Never knew it was a park over there.
Right. Exactly.
And again, I'm going to just close with this. And again, thank you. But what I'm saying is that we know about the infrastructure. I'm just simply saying that when you're going up 400% and 500% on people, it's totally ridiculous. And something needs to be said and something needs to be done. Because people shouldn't have to pay $400 a month just to have the most basic thing that everybody have to have. We have to have water, even if we don't have nothing else.
You're right, Bill. Well, one thing we know, you're going to be a fighter out there. So, okay, let's go. Is this another Xavier? Who is this?
Shouldn't be me. I'm right here.
You on both?
No, I shouldn't be. I'm on one number.
Okay, let me get you. Wait a minute. Let me get you off of here. Because we got you on another one. Okay, let's go to Alan. Alan.
How you doing, Carlton? Glad you're back. To Miss Belinda Conaway. I'm thinking about somebody. Belinda Conaway. I see you. I saw you doing. I think you went to Wheels, Baltimore County Wheels.
No, Baltimore City.
Very attractive. Yeah.
She's
and
registered Wheels.
I saw on. So I'm not from here. I saw on a commercial one day. She's very beautiful lady. Yeah.
Thank you.
To Attorney Dashiell. What's going on in California, guys? And we don't see it. And they talking about cost of living. The L.A. school district is on strike saying these teachers need some more money, and they compete with those ball players, Hollywood actors. Now, what's his name? Governor Westmore, I think he's familiar with California. Now, Chicago, they got a guy want to be mayor. that we got to educate our babies, because babies not our kids not Democrats or Republicans until they turn 18 when they have the right to vote. What's up with the educational system? And look at this. They saying they shut the school down. I think it's like 420,000 kids out of school, and they fight for economics. And I like Wes Moore because I was listening to the other radio station. He's big on public lunches because the government wastes money. I'm saying kids should eat free, and it wouldn't even affect me at all. And to solve the problem of high utility bill, Nick Mosby graduated from Tuskegee as an electrical engineer. He should be the CEO of the utility company. You know, because I don't know much about him. Won't disparage his name. But Nick Mosby, because electric is coming from California. Now, how we going to afford these electric bills called cost of living? And Nick Mosby, I would tell him this. He probably listen. He should be the CEO. A man that go to college and graduate with an electrical engineer, he's not unintelligent. So I just like to know what the movement of this electric movement coming out of California, cars, batteries, and all this stuff. I think they're just trying to make it, too expensive to live in America. Maybe we need to go to another country. Maybe we need to go to Mexico. But we can't compete with these high prices. I want to appreciate you, Carlton. Can you comment on that about high cost of living? Yeah, thank you now.
Okay. Well, first of all, you was kind of all over the place, but let me just comment on a couple of things you did say. The L.A. school district is the second largest school district in the country, second only to New York. The teachers are on strike out there. Teachers union are on strike for better pay. And teachers, as far as I'm concerned, teachers all over this country ought to be getting more money than what they're getting. I have been a teacher. I know that. You now have to be a teacher, a security guard, a parent. There's a whole lot of hats you got to wear now as a teacher, and the number one salary ought to be a teacher. Okay? I was just telling my wife today, all them teachers out of Florida ought to shut DeSantis up and just move right on out of Florida and go somewhere else where they can be better paid, and then what he going to do then? Okay? So we're just going to have to watch on how this is going to play out. Now, I did not understand about your utility comments about the utilities are high, and they're going to continue to be high. It's crazy in California. California utilities have nothing to do with Maryland utilities. I can tell you that now. Now, however, out in that area, in that western part of the country, which I just come back from last week. That's where I was last week, out in Phoenix, attending a friend of mine's funeral services. It's hard to explain, but many of those states out there are connected to each other for the utilities, and that creates a quagmire for a lot of people out there. Texas is one of the worst places, and that's why I don't understand why they keep putting Abbott back in there, because Abbott is a destructive individual, especially when it comes to utilities. So I don't know how you're going to resolve this until you, first of all, they need to go back to nuclear energy. In my opinion, which would make it much cheaper and much safer, in my opinion, than trying to, go through the regular rates that they've been going through. So,
and just to clarify on the strike that is out in L.A., it's not the teachers that are on strike, it's the service workers that are on strike, and the teachers are taking off to support them. So it's the service workers who are trying to work out a negotiation or a contract through the union, not the teachers trying to work out negotiations or contracts.
Well, who are the service workers? You say service workers, who are the service workers?
I guess the cafeteria people, things of that nature, janitors, things of that
bus drivers.
But it is true that the average first-year rookie cop with a high school diploma makes more than a first-year teacher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Leo, you on air?
Yes. Good morning, my friends. How are you?
Fine.
Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, Roots of Scouting, the organization of which I'm president, met on the 20th, Monday the 20th of this month, and we had as our guest Joshua Harris, the vice president of the Baltimore City chapter of the NAACP, and Brother Giovanni Patterson. He's leading the effort to suing the Baltimore City Public Schools for their failures to properly administer and run the schools in the interests of our children. Roots, the Scouting organization, endorsed and voted support behind both initiatives. And specifically what I'm talking about is that with regard to what Joshua Harris brought to us was the concerns regarding the BG&E conduit deal and the fact that the NAACP had taken a position in opposition to the way in which it was handled and executed. And we agree. And in addition, he pointed out that there's continuing discrimination against employees within the gas and electric company and retaliation against black employees and others who are protesting the manner in which they're being treated. So we let them know that we're fully on board in that fight, and we would like to see, frankly, and this is going to be a tough road to hoe, we'd like to see re-regulation of Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. And, in 1999, they were deregulated as a result of the initiative of Delegate Sandy Rosenberg, who introduced that legislation into the General Assembly. And so we've got a runaway train of hardships, financial hardships, and rate increases being foisted upon the poor, the black, and the middle class. And we think there needs to be pushback against that. We also think that we need to leverage our support of our Governor Westmore. Governor Westmore appoints the members of the Public Service Commission. They have oversight over utilities, and we need to get more involved in trying to ensure that justice is served with regard to BG&E. Brother Patterson pointed out that there will be an April 4th rally and demonstration at 200 East North Avenue at the headquarters of the Baltimore City Public Schools regarding their continuing failures to administer the school system in ways that are in the best interest of African American people as well. And so we said we would support them. It's April 4th at 5 p.m. And we want folks to come out and be supportive of that initiative. We would like to see the CEO terminated from that spot. The mayor has praised her in the past. We happen to think that she's not doing a good job.
You're right.
And she's not working in our best interest. And the Board of School Commissioners, she's getting paid more money than any other CEO in the public school systems in the state. And at this point in time, we just simply feel that she's not working in our best interest. I will also conclude on this note. The fire department has 6%. We're estimating 6 or 7% of the fire department, Baltimore City, are black. At one time, we were as high as 17 or 18%. So when we talk about public safety, we're looking at, again, racism, nepotism, discrimination in Baltimore City Fire Department, and we're going down the tubes. I guess Reverend Dr. Marion Baskin will turn over in his grave. I'm old enough to remember the 1950s struggle to get us into the Baltimore City Fire Department. And now we're going down the tube. So we're working with the Vulcan Blazers, the Black Firefighters Organization under the presidency of Bill Jones, to rekindle the fight, reestablish our place, our rightful place in getting EMTs and firefighters in sufficient numbers. It won't be 60%, but we need to come up considerably to where we used to be and exceed those numbers in the fire department and the police department as well.
I have a quick question. How is it concluded that the lack of African Americans in the fire department is a result of racism and not a result of lack of recruitment, or just a lack of interest in African Americans deciding to pursue that profession?
We did, Sister Wilson, we did this based on past history and knowledge of the history of how the fire department has been run, and the fight that we know in terms of the unions. We know the present composition of the fire department in terms of many of its folks coming from outside the state, New York and everywhere else, that there's been a policy pattern and practice of discrimination over time. And yes, we need to get involved. We need to establish ways in which we can do a better job of recruitment at this point in time. But we think we've dropped the ball, or some of our leaders over the years have dropped the ball, and that's why we're down to 6% in terms of where we are today.
But
we just haven't maintained.
Hold up, Leo.
Leo, I intend no disrespect. I really don't. But we've got to get past the notion that the answer to everything is a rally or a march. Let me talk about the suit against the Baltimore City school system. It's a complete waste of time. There's no judge sitting on a bench that can tell you how to construct an educational system that's going to better educate the kids. That's not. And if the lawyers are telling you otherwise, they're wasting your time and taking your money. If they're taking your money, the answer to that is the people who are running the system. And it's not just the superintendent. It is the board of school commissioners, and you got to focus on who's there. The same thing with the BG&E. It's not another rally. What people need to do, I think, is to sue the city, because I think that the agreement that was made violates the charter. I think that when the people in Baltimore City voted in November that the ownership of the conduit system would not be transferred, that I think that calling it a maintenance agreement is a thinly disguised, a thinly veiled attempt to get around the clear will of the voters. Now, what do? The courts are not just there to protect so-called civil rights. We got to do what other people do. We got to be smart about how we do it.
All right, Leo, final thought quickly, because I got to go to...
Okay, I just want to say to Attorney Robert Fulton Dashiell, I fully agree with you.
Okay.
I'm in favor of using whatever tactics and strategies we can, and legally suing, demanding that a moratorium be placed on rate increases with gas and electric over time, and developing political strategies and legal strategies to protect our interests. But I'm not going to take off the table the fact that over the years, rallies, marches, and demonstrations have served us well in terms of mobilizing people around goals and objectives. Okay. So I do agree that every strategy we can utilize, we need to utilize to win the victory.
Okay. Thank you, Leo. Full disclosure, I was at that meeting the other night for the Roots of Scouting. Very interesting meeting. A lot of good points. I'll mention more about the black firefighters thing later on as we go. Let's get Keith in. We got a line open 410-481-1010, 410-481-1010. Keith, you're on air.
Yes, good morning.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Okay, we got elderly women that have been found murdered, one stuffed in a container. We got carjacking. We got shootings. We got all kinds of crap. Westmore was at he was down at the Lexington Market promoting a stupid cannabis store to open up, really? And we got all this crime going on, a freaking cannabis store, but people can go buy weed and get high? Really? That's what we need, really? I voted for you, and you're going to do this? You didn't come to Baltimore, Albany to Baltimore to talk about a cannabis store? Because that's what the people, screw what the people want, a cannabis store? Really? We ain't no different than Mexico. Cartels. We open up cannabis stores. We're going to be next to all these bars so people can go and smoke and get high. That's what everybody does. That's what all these young kids do. I see it every day, is smoke this stupid weed. That's what everybody do. Grown-ups, everybody. That's what it is now. I mean, really, we got all this crime in Baltimore, and you want to promote a cannabis store? Really? That is. Actually, you know what? I'm not promoting for people not to. Talking about for people not to vote. But I see why people don't vote, Because look what's going on. There's nothing being done about anything in Baltimore. You mean really a freaking dumb reefer store? And you know why? Because the white man. That's what the white man want. Because they know it's a money maker. They know it's a money maker. And you want to come to Baltimore? We already drowning in crime, and you want to open up? You talking about this? Nah, man. No. Don't come all the way to Baltimore talking about that crap, man. No, I want some stuff done.
Hold on.
That's what I want. I want some.
Hold on,
the crime to stop.
Hold on, Keith. Tehma has a quick question, and then we got to get out of here because we get ready to go to the second hour.
Just a general question. Why are you surprised? I mean, when the governor ran, he made it clear that marijuana would be top of his agenda. He didn't make it clear specifically.
Well, you know what?
He did
I
not.
I must have really missed that part. I must have really missed that part, though.
He made it clear that marijuana and opening that industry would be on the top of his agenda. He did not make clear how him as governor would solve any of the crime issues in Baltimore City.
Well, you know what? I'm dumb-minded. I'm dumb-minded on that because I didn't even hear that part. You're right, because I wouldn't even voted for him.
Okay, everybody hold up because we get ready to get out of here to go in the second hour. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Okay, but I don't know where he was that he didn't hear what the agenda that Westmore
when
had.
they adopted medicinal marijuana 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just didn't start with Westmore.
All right, we got one line on 410-481-1010. This is the Frank M. Conaway Sr. and Al Show from 10 to 12 with co-host Attorney Tehma Smith Wilson, Attorney Robert Bob Dashiell, Register of Wills and daughter of our founder, Belinda Conaway, and the new clerk of the court, his grandson, Xavier Conaway, and yours truly, Carlton Douglas. Don't touch that dial. We got a whole lot more to get into. As soon as we come back, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
His mother goes to scrub the floors for me, and you best believe she hardly gets a penny, living just enough for the city.
Talk in the day. Soul